Hello, Generals, and we're back with the Ultimate General Civil War Major General playthrough. This is Bull Run. Now, there's been some excellent comments on my earlier two videos. Unfortunately, I recorded all of these videos in sort of one big marathon play session. As a quick note about video production technique, for the most part, I felt like my quality, the quality of my work is better when I'm recording audio while I'm playing. However, this battle's big enough and long enough that what I've done is recorded the video and then I've doubled the speed of the actual battle itself. So the pre-screen and the post-screen are both going to be at times 1 speed and everything else is times 2. So we've all seen Bull Run a million times, I had a degree of experience kind of understanding what to expect going into Bull Run on MG. But I wasn't really sure. And some of the comments that I've gotten in my videos have sort of reinforced my experiences from this battle. One of them from something Compass being that I just can't afford to let my line infantry kind of bear the brunt like I could get away with in the normal difficulty mode. And you see that kind of play out here. One of my units just gets absolutely wrecked. And the rest, the army does well. The army performs well in the course of this battle. But to say that it's not worse for wear, most of the units are around half strength when I'm done. When I'm in the heat of the fight, I lose track of the light infantry unit, 1st Light Foot, and they trade blows with someone for a while when the skirmish units like that just shouldn't be doing that. So we'll get to that stuff when it happens. I've seen a bunch of players kind of handle Bull Run Phase 1 differently. The units that form, I would say, the lion's share of your army are not great. None of them have a great deal of experience. None of them are very well led. You've not had the chance to build your core. When you're building this army in the big army strategy, the allied units are also scaled up to match. So they're 2,900 men or 2,600 men or something, just something stupid huge. And it makes it impossible for the officers that have them to really meaningfully lead them. One of the nice things about what I'm terming the mixed order strat, although right now it all looks like small units, is that the whole battle is scaled to me, and my allies are relatively small, and the enemy is also relatively small. And that's one of the things that I like about this sort of mixed order strat. And then one of the things I love about MG is, I don't know if they're aggressive or they're just more willing to stick it out or whatever. It's probably a function of them having higher quality 2-3 stars and better gear and all that kind of stuff. They stick these fights out for a long time. And it's kind of the visual that I was expecting coming into a Civil War game where units just stand there and blast at each other. That's a far more, to my mind anyway, historical kind of thing. You didn't see, now in fairness, the volleys are historically effective, I think. But my understanding of the way that an engagement would go in the actual war is that 2 units, if absent an outside influence like a flanker or something, 2 units would just stand there and blast at each other, and ad nauseum forever. And it's an effect of, the smoke and the muskets, and they can't see the effect of their fire, and they can't sometimes tell how exposed they are or how out of position they are and that kind of thing. And then also, obviously, I've got perfect recon. I'm in this hypermobile weather balloon or something hovering a mile or 3 over the battlefield, probably a mile maybe. And no one on the ground would have the fidelity or granularity of information or the ability to make these, fine tuning maneuvers I do. And then the other thing is that, I would be reliant entirely on Wilcox, say. He's just the guy on the screen right now. Or whoever the unit commander of, say, 5th Infantry was. I'd be entirely reliant on that person to make the best call. And so the unit plans would need to be very simple, which makes a lot of sense. So I have more power, more ability. But one of the things I noticed in the normal playthrough is very quickly Confederate units would shatter. And I didn't know if that was a combination, if that was a factor of the weapons or the difficulty level or, what it was. But I'm getting the experience I was expecting out of a Civil War game on Major General. The enemy is tenacious. They fight hard. It fits into the narrative of the Confederate soldier being, generally speaking, better than the Union soldier because the AI troops are generally 2- and 3-star troops, and they've got, it's a bit ahistorical that they're as well equipped as they are, evidently, towards the later part of the campaign. But, hey, whatever, things happen. In a video game, it's very rare that things like reliability are taken into account. My understanding is that as the Confederacy had harder and harder times getting access to iron or steel for cannons, or I think iron for cannons, they would start making their cannons out of whatever they had available. I'm screwing up the material. It's one material is good, and the Confederates had plenty of it in the beginning of the war, probably steel, and one material is not great, and they would use that to make their cannons as the war went on, and evidently that had a precipitous drop in the efficacy of the firearm. So, I find the logistical component of all this stuff very interesting, and probably that's because I'm in a business school pursuing a degree for operations and logistics, and I find these things very interesting. So there's a degree of probably personal self-selection in that particular interest. But it also probably explains why I find the camp screen to be the most fun part of this game, and the way you can build your army also pretty fun. So one of the things that I do here that I could probably pull off in normal difficulty that I probably I for sure can't at Major General is I've got a new unit, 5th Infantry here. They've got farmers. They're brand new. They're green troops. And I send them to occupy that farm with the thought process that they're going to be right next to that cannon unit emboldened, and they'll be able to put fire into it. Or they'll be able to draw fire from the other artillery unit farther to the left while the rest of my corps gets into position. And that it results in me eating canister at very close range and losing damn near half the unit. Or not half, but like 100 guys, like just out of nowhere. It's not the kind of thing I can afford to do at this difficulty level, and it's the kind of thing that maybe I could afford to do in normal. The other thing is the left here is going fine. My troops are doing okay. We've outmaneuvered the Confederates, and the issue there is twofold. One, they're just outnumbered. Like, they've got large units, but there's just 3 brigades up against 6, 7 of them in skirmishers and artillery. This is a game that evidently lots of small units seems to perform pretty okay, and they're just outmaneuvered. I mean, that's just what it boils down to. And on the right, it's right of the screen, but from the Union perspective coming down from the south, it's the Union left. They have rough-ish numerical parity, and in that portion of the field, the qualitative edge that the Confederate Army brings to bear is crushing. I would absolutely be able to rely on the Allied units to handle that flank by themselves in the normal difficulty, and I just plain can't do it. I just can't do it here, and my guys pay for it, or those guys pay for it. there's just the numbers aren't that far in my favor, aren't enough in my favor that they can be expected to go up against that many 3-star units and not lose, not fight that in an unprofitable kind of way. However, I am very happy with the performance of the Army, my portion of the Army, on the Union right. There's, a good sense of aggressiveness. There's a really, really good use of positioning, really good use of the artillery as a close supporting arm. And that portion of the Army does exceptionally well. Now, in fairness, there may have been a degree of neglect on the right as well. I was hyper-focused on the maneuver of my troops, the ones that I carry into the next battle, which makes sense in terms of, that's the force that's gonna necessitate, more attention being paid to it. So I'm folding the officer, or the first and second infantry together. And that's because somewhere in taking that farmhouse, the commanding officer first got wounded. Now, he's not dead, thank goodness, but he is wounded. I think we don't actually have... And Bull Run's kind of hard because so many officers here, and they rank up and they level and stuff, but then, I don't know which ones are mine and which ones aren't. So I think that I have 2 officers get wounded, and that's it. One of the nice things about the overperformance of the Union, we'll call it the Union right, that's the accurate term, I suppose, is that it shatters the 2 artillery units. I think it damn near shatters one of the infantry units. And it leaves that whole portion of the force free to really, really support what's going on the right. And so what we're seeing on the right is the Allied units kind of really struggling with the Confederates that are present. They're all excellent, and they're all ready to just kind of battle this out, and my guys just aren't. The artillery is helping to kind of turn that tide a little bit, but nothing over here really works until I can get first light foot into position, and the dragoons get over there to help out some, and then Brewster, who is the combination of 1st and 2nd infantry, also really comes. And once elements of 1st Corps arrive, the Confederate thrust on the right near that bridge just kind of falls apart. And one of the interesting things I'm noticing from the turn to Major General is it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing that they'll stick it out. It's a bad thing that they fight. It's all those things. Okay, fine. But it's actually also a really good thing. In normal, they'd fight for a couple seconds and then they'd get sick of it and run away, and then you'd just be back to it again. And you had essentially this yo-yo effect where the Army would shatter and run away and then rally and come back, and shatter and run away and rally and come back, and shatter and run away and come back. It was very repetitive, and it was if you keep that momentum going and prevent the enemy from really rallying, there really wouldn't be a whole lot of fight to be had. It would just sort of be this stampede. Before I committed to doing this Major General playthrough, I recorded from my normal difficulty Gaines's Mill and Malvern Hill, and even a little bit of the lead up to 2nd Bull Run, or 2nd Manassas. And, Malvern Hill, I had 1,300 casualties, or no, Gaines's Mill, I had like 1,300 casualties, and Malvern Hill, I had, 4,000 casualties or something, because there was, quote unquote, particularly heavy fighting in part of that battle. And, I got done with those fights. And like, I just, I don't know, like the AI kept routing, and then it would rally and come back. But at that point in time, the pep had already been kicked out of their step, and there wasn't much of a battle left, and it was just sort of beating up on a baby seal. And so what I'm liking about the willingness to fight it out here is that, yes, my casualties are higher, and yes, all that kind of stuff, but man, I really feel like I have to work for it, and it's so much more satisfying to see a strat kind of come to fruition. And then as a practical note, the willingness to fight it out means that instead of chain routing a dozen times before you finally shatter the unit, it's very possible that you'll fight a unit all of twice before you shatter it. Some of these Confederate units here, Lynchburg or 4th South Carolina or whatever, they're already getting 4th, is North Carolina? I'm watching a playback, and the screen resolution isn't quite as good as it would be during final render. So some of the letters are 4th Carolina, North or South, take your pick. 2nd Virginia, 5th Virginia. Those units are damn near Shatterpoint already. And that's what I think is, as a practical note, one of the really interesting, fun things. Once the tide turns, this battle actually starts to go smoother for me than it did on normal, because instead of a legion of reformed units or whatever, I shatter the army here, and then the army that comes as the second wave, I want to say it's whatever group that is, they shatter. And then, not completely, but to the point where the fighting force, the core as a whole, is shattered. And the same thing happens with the 3rd. Everyone's watched a million videos, or not a million, but a dozen videos of Bull Run, where the Union commander traps the Confederates in the river, and like we all just kind of know how Bull Run's going to end. Nothing that I'm doing in this battle goes particularly interestingly on that regard. I'm not turning over any new leaves or territory or inventing anything new or special in the way that I play this battle out. But what is interesting to me is, instead of taking 3 shots and running away, the Confederate army fights it out to the point of shattering on a lot of different fronts. I mean, their entire right just shattered under the combined weight of the Army of Northern Virginia and then my 1st Corps. And now what's left is a not insignificant fighting force, but that was a lot of 3-star units for any army to lose. As far as I can tell, the AI reconstitutes them, and I don't think that they follow a lot of the same rules of manpower tracking and all that kind of stuff that we do, but it's still very interesting for me to watch some of this stuff go down. So there was a lot of great commentary from viewers about, not eating canister fire, because in the normal Let's Play, the cannons might be 6-pounders or 12-pound howitzers, and that's just fine. And pretty soon, I'm going to be seeing a Confederate army equipped with Napoleons or Richmonds or Parrots and that kind of thing. And I see some of that here. Some of my units take canister that didn't need to. There was a moment near the bridge where the dragoons took canister fire, which is, I just need to not let that kind of thing happen. And it's yeah, there's a lot of lessons that I picked up from these 3 fights. I played all of these just kind of back to back to back and recorded all of it. I recorded audio for the first 2 videos while I was doing it. And then these grand campaigns, it's kind of hard to keep that commentary meaningful or interesting and the entire way through. So we're moving into what I call like the middle phase of Bull Run. And this is sort of, you've taken the hill, but your hold is, I think, tenuous at best. Your units are exhausted from all the walking they've done, because at this part of the war, the Union Army is predominantly composed of green recruits who have absolutely no stamina. They don't have the first perk with endurance. They've got very little, they're slow and they're sluggish, and the units don't know what they're doing, and the army itself is a lot of green, fresh recruits. And it's a very interesting phase for the army to be going through. But yeah, so take a look on the right. 2 units just shattered, not just, but shattered a couple seconds ago. You know, I'm using, as much as I can, I'm using allied troops to handle a lot of the grindy parts of the fighting. This is a very grindy portion of the battle. And then when you close it out, you always want your troops, once you've pinned the army into that little bit of river down in the south, you kind of want all your troops to be the ones doing most of the killing, racking up a lot of the experience. Holy shit. Yeah, I forgot this charge. 3 brigades right on top of each other. It's a this is a perfect, if it hadn't stopped right there to just sort of clump up and get smashed by artillery, B and Holmes and Ewell, with Smith in the front there, that would be an absolutely perfect flying column. It was really just beautifully executed, and if they just rammed that through, oh geez, man, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, one of the units, Smith, would be routing and running back, and that's fine, but man, that many Confederates just inserting themselves into my line of battle, woohoo, that would have been a bitch. And I don't know, like the aggression is off the charts, and the aggression is dangerous, but it's also really exciting. And it feels far more to me like there's an actual battle going on, and less of a turkey shoot. I don't know. I like, you know, keeping my casualties small and keeping the enemy casualties high, but I got kind of bored in the Union campaign. I didn't really ever feel like it was anything besides a turkey shoot. After the army got to a certain point, and I gotta say, you know, reading the forums and the commentary from Something Compass and watching Spectrum's videos and watching SC's videos as well, like it's really upped the quality of my play, and it made the Union normal campaign, which was for me kind of a challenge when I first started playing this game. I don't want to say it made it trivial, but it wasn't anywhere near the kind of problem it had been for me in the past. And so, yeah, maybe it's just familiarity with the game. Like, I've got 400 hours in this game. So it could be that, as well as learning from multiple sources and everything else. But all of those factors combined to make it to the point where I was feeling confident that, yeah, maybe I can handle Major General. And it's clear for me, watching these videos kind of after the fact, it's clear I've got some things I need to clean up in my play. But the general concepts are being applied well. And this is fun. I know it's probably really shit. Like, if you're a man fighting in 4th Infantry right now, this is not fun. They are having a bad time. Like, I can't imagine being on this field. Oh God, that would suck. But from the perspective of playing a game on a computer in my living room, you know, in 2018, holy shit, this is fun. So, I mean, perspective. But yeah, the LA Tigers or LA Tigers probably aren't long for this world. I don't think that I shadowed them here. I think that Reynolds is morale shocked to the point where he can't offer meaningful fire. The real all-star is 3rd Ordnance. That's 10 3-inch guns. Of course, they're going to rock it. The wired unit only has 4 guns right now, and I think I have a brand new 6-pounder unit that maybe has 8 guns, but is, you know, still fresh, still green. So the army gets a brief respite a moment to breathe. Stewart really just kind of keeps harrying my line, and he comes away from it like not massively weakened, but worse for the trade every time. Like in that particular instance, he lost 50 of his number. But it really never goes well for him. And I think the big deciding factor on this particular battlefield is absolutely the overwhelming presence of Union artillery. I mean, the quality of the infantry just isn't there. Yeah, there's another 35 some odd man on a Stewart's unit. Like, those kind of casualties for a cav unit are unsustainable. So, the army having rested, we begin to push. I want to deny some covered terrain to the Confederates. I don't want them to have access to this sort of, I can't think of the name of it, but it's this up-down sort of copse of trees or spearhead point. Like, just come, it's like a perfect lane of advance for them right towards the flag for Henry Hill. So obviously I don't want them to have that. It's where Jackson currently is in 33rd Virginia, that area. I don't want them to have that. And so I'm trying to advance such that the army would be able to provide oblique fire if they tried to advance up that up that line of trees. So this is the moment when the first Lightfoot exchanges fire. You can kind of see it on the right there. Beckham is, or Beecham or Burnham or something, is shooting at Lightfoot, and I'm just not paying attention. I'm just too far away. I'm not paying attention. But we've all seen Bull's Run get played out, and this is more or less going how it always goes. Yeah, it's a more of a grind because we're on Major General and all that kind of thing. But I'm leaning heavily into the Allied units, and at this point, it's kind of a foregone conclusion. The Union Army is able to advance in a kind of uniform manner, and the Confederate stabs, when they do come, are disjointed, unsupported. They don't have enough cannon to kind of gun me off the field. So that even though the units they do have are objectively better than the ones that that's right. Like one random volley, and then Colonel Ames is, boop, I'm out. He's the guy in the cav unit. Wounded, not dead, thank goodness. Yeah, like 33rd VA, 167 some odd guys. There's just no fight left in this army at this point. And they're going to keep coming because it's Major General, and some of the units are big enough they can keep it up. But, at this point, the battle's basically over. There's enough Union guns. I got to pause it. Yeah, enough Union guns that they can't push me off the field at this point. So yeah, there's the kind of mop up portion of the battle, and then yeah, I'll come back at the closing screen. But I mean, we've all seen a mop up a bull run, so you know it's around probably the 40-minute mark is when we'll get back into it. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Okay, we're coming up on the end of the battle. And yeah, I'm surprised this unit kind of managed to squeak out, but hey, good for them. 5,500 Union, 5,600 Union to 15,000 Confederate. Like it's a great turn for the Union. I don't know which of these officers are mine and which aren't, but there's a bucket of promotions. On the captured, some 6-pounders is nice. The 12-pound howitzers I'm not likely to use. The farmers I am probably gonna use. The Springfields, I noticed interestingly, are mostly rescues versus captures. So that's Bull Run, and we'll have a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of dudes to get ourselves ready for the march up to Shiloh. Here's the Army. We lost 3 officers out of the deal, which isn't terrible. Got a bunch of promotions too, which is good. And then we got Shiloh. So I've done river crossing in normal, and I think that there is a lot that I can do different. So this is Fiasco. Thanks for sticking this one out, and I'll see you guys in river crossing. Ciao.